Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Milan Shelevinsky. Ever since his dismissal in July this year, Ukraine's former Defense Minister Mykhailo Fedorov continues to capture the imagination of much of the Ukrainian public, with protests for his reinstatement regularly taking place in Kyiv. Was Zelensky's government reshuffle a mistake insofar as firing Fedorov was concerned? Could he still be brought back? And can his spirit of innovation live on despite his dismissal, helping Ukraine beat back Russia's relentless aggression? Joining us here today is Rudik, Ukrainian MP and leader of the Voice Party. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, Jonas, and thank you so much for having me.
Right, so before we move on to Ukrainian politics, let's begin with a bit of a background. On your social media, you wrote a short post about a book market that you used to visit and which is no more because the Russians, in their pursuit of military targets, apparently, have destroyed this particular place. A marketplace for books burned down by a Russian attack. So can you tell us a bit more about this? Because it serves as a perfect illustration of what we're really dealing with, right?
Absolutely. So since I was a student I used to come to this market to buy books, not only for my education, but also to read. There were many different stores there, and they were usually run by small entrepreneurs who would be reselling older books, even from the Soviet times, and who will be selling very rare books. And it would be a place for young people, intellectuals, just bookworms, to meet each other and form the community. It was a place very dear to my heart. It was located on top of one of the major subway stations, and it was known all over Kyiv as the place to come in for really rare books or just to meet people and be able to discuss books with them. Right now, it is destroyed to the ground, burned down. We don't know, honestly, what Russia was targeting. Maybe it was a subway station that is, again, a civil infrastructure. And they are known to be targeting subway stations because people are hiding there underground. Maybe they were targeting it just because it is a book market. And that would not be the first time when Russia is targeting the book markets or bookstores or publishing houses throughout Ukraine. And it's very hard to say what was their aim, but the reality is that right now, myself and many of my friends, we are intensifying the way that we are buying books from Ukrainian publishers because we know that they are going through incredibly tough time. The renewing and the renaissance of Ukrainian book and publishing just started to happen, and we really need to support it whenever we can.
Very briefly, do you think that Russia wants to create a false symmetry with these places on the one hand and the Wildberries warehouses? Because obviously there are differences there, right, with Ukraine striking those warehouses because they also serve an additional purpose apart from civilian trade.
Of course. So the Wildberries warehouses in Russia, they obviously 100% serve military point as well. And Ukraine is always going by the book, and we are only attacking real military targets. It would be easier to say that Russia is going back at us. But the truth is, Jonas, they were doing it since the beginning of full-scale invasion. The destruction of Ukrainian publishing houses and warehouses with the books actually were happening in 2022, 2023, etc. So everything that Russia does right now has nothing to do with what Ukraine has been doing. They're going according to their plan, attacking and creating havoc no matter what.
And this is also a very good introduction to the main theme of today's story, so to say, because Ukraine wants to innovate in order to defend itself. And the face of that innovation had been Mykhailo Fedorov, the Ukrainian Defense Minister, who was dismissed quite recently, and people still want him to go back. Do you think that he might be taken on again as a defense minister, and that President Zelensky would listen to what the protesters have to say?
So at this moment, 9 a.m. In Ukraine, when Ukraine's Verkhovna Rada parliament is starting its work from summer recess, President did not submit any candidate for a position of Minister of Defense, neither Mr. Fedorov nor current acting minister, Mr. Khmara. So we do not know what's going to happen, and things can go both ways. However, given President's reaction to the protests, and this reaction was completely ignoring and acting like they are not happening, we don't think that President will be really likely to return Mr. Fedorov to his position. Unfortunately, right now we are in the situation when we really desperately need a full-time Minister of Defense. Honestly, no matter who will be filling the position, it would be better than current situation, because it means collaborating with our international partners. It means signing the certain orders for buying military supplies. It means preparing for incredibly tough winter that we know is going to be very hard for all Ukrainians. I have lots of sympathies to Mr. Fedorov. I have been working with him for 7 years when he was the Minister of Digital Transformation before he became Minister of Defense. And I know him and I trust him. I think he is a fantastic leader for the digital transformation. However, we also need to acknowledge that Ministry of Defense is in hands of President. According to Ukraine's constitution, it is obviously his choice, and he needs to be able to choose a person that he is able to work with. I think right now the goal should be to preserve this innovation in Ukraine's army, innovation in Ministry of Defense, and ability to find a way of how we should concentrate, not rather on the positions, but on figuring out how to win the war. And I think it can be found a way of how Mr. Fedorov would be still useful to our country without being on the position of Ministry of Defense if President Zelensky does not decide to bring him back.
Right, but Mykhailo Fedorov repeatedly said he does not want any other position apart from that of Minister of Defense. So do you think he might change his mind?
He was actually very successful in innovating in the army, even not being Minister of Defense. So when he was Minister of Digital Transformation, he still had the drones innovations, supporting army, training army in the things that he was responsible for. So I think if there would be a wish, there would be a way to figure out how everybody will be working together again for the sake of our country. We also need to be mindful that it's not only innovation that Ministry of Defense is responsible for. It would be great that he would be only responsible for the things that he is great at. But Ukraine has much more problems in the meanings of the Ministry of Defense, such as mobilization, such as terms of service for the people who are currently at the front line, the paying for our soldiers. These are unfortunately very hard and not very popular things to deal with. And for the 6 months that Minister Fedorov was at the position, he did not move forward on these incredibly important topics. So I think if there would be a way of Mr. Khmara, current acting defense minister, new head of Ukraine's army, Mr. Dropati, and Mr. Fedorov to find a way to work together, that would be only great for the country. And I think at this point, Minister needs to reconsider his position that he only wants to go back to this position and not any other.
Right, but let's go back a bit, because you also said that, first of all, that this is a question of the president being able to work with the defense minister. Now, earlier on, it was usually reported that there was a feud between Mr. Fedorov and Alexander Syrsky, the former commander-in-chief, but now Syrsky has been dismissed as well. So do you think the main problem was that President Zelensky and Mr. Fedorov were not really able to get along?
They are both denying it. So even if it was a matter, if it was an issue, I think right now some time has passed, so they would be able to review their positions and again concentrate on what is important right now. Honestly, when you are at the front line, and I hear it from so many people that I'm working with and many of my friends, when you're at the front line, you don't really think of who is in charge of the Ministry of Defense. You are thinking about if you have enough of the supplies, if the ammunition will keep coming, if we have the best innovation in our hands. And so the main call is figure out how you can work together, appoint a Minister of Defense, put it to the Rada to vote, and just figure it out so we can all survive. You know, if Ukraine fails at this war, there would be, it would be so unfortunate, it would be national tragedy, and nobody would remember who felt what about whom. This is why I think right now it's the main call from Ukrainian people is to concentrate on how to solve the current situation at the best way for our country, no matter what the people at the positions are. And though people at the protests right now are demanding to return Minister Fedorov, again, I think there could be a position found for him at the current structure that would be able to fulfill everybody's wishes.
Do you think political ambitions could be getting in the way? Could this be President Zelenskyy being afraid of a powerful rival? Or could this be Mr. Fedorov already eyeing the future presidential bid, perhaps, after, of course, Ukraine is able to constitutionally conduct presidential elections? Because right now it is at war, so conducting presidential elections naturally would not have been consistent with what the Constitution says.
So the irony of the situation is that before the dismissal, Minister Fedorov was not even polling that well. After being dismissed, the first impression of people was that he was unfairly dismissed, and of course the trust to him raised super high, and he started being a political rival to President Zelenskyy. However, according to what Mr. Fedorov says himself, that is not his ambition to become like a real politician, perhaps oppositional politician. And also to that point, we see that he never went to the protestants who are chanting his name to talk to them.
So he's not capitalizing on that, right? And there was a CBS interview,
yes,
and he was asked about the reasons for his dismissal. He said, I wouldn't like to talk about this.
Absolutely. So he wouldn't come to people who are chanting his name, which is really, I don't think that we both know any of the politicians who would do that, right? And I don't know if there is any other politician in Ukraine who was able to gather people to support him during the war. So it seems that he is very honest at his position, that he just wants to continue working for the sake of his country. And I think that if that is true, President Zelenskyy needs to find in his heart, rather than creating a real political rival, a way of how to introduce him back to the system, so then he can be useful, and we can continue concentrating on really important matters rather than political ambitions or just like executional ambitions of Mr. Fedorov or of Mr. Zelenskyy.
Rudik was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
And I'm Jonasz Lewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news, updates and commentary.